Acapulco is a beautiful city on the southern coast of Mexico, known as a popular destination for tourists seeking relaxing days and wild nights the world over. However,
its glory days might be far behind it, due to the pollution in the water and the growing unemployment and poverty in the city. And where there's poverty, the cartel is never far behind. Drug-related violence in the city is rising, and the city has a high murder rate of 110.5 per 100,000 residents.
Luis Flores works in Acapulco's morgue.
We can see that there are bodies all over here. The capacity is, what, 100 bodies? Sadly, because of the violence that they've experienced here, it's 320 or something here. So there are bodies on the floor, not refrigerated, of course. The capacity in the fridge, it's just overloaded. That's how difficult the situation is here for the authorities in Acapulco.
But for most of the tourists, the worst they'll have to deal with is being overcharged for a beer. Surely, no one's going to go as a tourist to the most violent city in the world, right?
State forces racing in to nab local police. In Acapulco, federal soldiers, the Marines, state and federal officers stormed the city's police headquarters, disarming them and taking control. State authorities made the announcement on social media. Police say the city's entire police force will be investigated for links to criminal groups. In a statement, Guerrero state authorities said the decision was due to the increased incidence of crime that's been registered and the lack of action by municipal police to deal with the criminal phenomenon. Once a favored vacation destination for the wealthy and for foreigners, Acapulco has fallen on hard times. Located in the Guerrero state, encroaching crime from warring drug cartels and armed groups have made it a dangerous place. The city has a homicide rate of 103 murders for every 100,000 people. Stripping local police of their power and taking over the rule of law is a frequent practice in Mexico, as the government grapples with widespread crime and corruption. In the past 4 years, federal forces have done so in a dozen towns, but never in as large a city as Acapulco.
Some of the stuff he had with him fell, like the radio and the different phones, and when I seen a few different types of phones there on the ground, and the radio, I already knew that it was not a joke what just happened, that it was not just some bum. Hi everyone. So this is a story that came up as number 1 on requested Mexican videos, and this is a street fight that I had versus a cartel member. I will start the story from the beginning of the night when I was making my way to the club. Keep in mind, this was one day before the last day that I worked at this club. So this was like, I worked one more day after this and then I didn't go again. Okay, so, okay, here we go. That night, it was supposed to be a quiet night. It was a Thursday night, and I lived really close to the club. And by close, I mean real close. Like, I lived half a block from the beach and about half a block from the Starbucks in the main street, another block away from the club. So I lived super close to the club. So I lived super close to the club. That's not the case with the rest of the staff. Like, I was literally the person of the club that lived the closest to the club out of the entire staff at the club, which was unusual. You know, the manager lived actually pretty close by, but not as close as me. But that said, all the bouncers and all the rest of the staff, they lived like far from the tourist area. Now, that's because most of them were middle lower class or lower class for Mexican standards, and I actually owned my apartment because my dad bought it for me. My dad, well, he was wealthy, he was an airline pilot, so that's why I actually lived really close to the club. That was pretty much my neighborhood where I lived at for like a while. I also lived in a different apartment of my dad's, one street over. That was before he bought me my apartment. But that said, long story short, I lived there and I owned it. And so I was basically walking, got my coffee like I always did at the Starbucks. Then I proceeded to cross the street because I have to cross the street to get to the club. As I'm crossing the street, I notice a car pulled over and I see the flashing lights like the ones you guys are seeing right now. And when I noticed it, I saw that there was another car in the back, like a sports car. And then I saw that the guys were wearing badges similar to these. This is a security badge, but these guys were wearing state police badges. Enough of that. But yeah, they were wearing state police badges, and then I noticed who they were. As I was waiting to cross the second part of the street, I noticed who they were. And they were basically talking as to the driver that they had pulled over. They had basically pulled over a driver that supposedly had hit him. Well, that said, next to the Starbucks, there was a hotel full of feds. Like a lot of federal officers, agents were staying there. And I used to teach also in a gym nearby. So I had some students that were feds. So it was full of feds all over the street there. Like full of cop cars in the parking lot and everything. So these guys were bodyguards. These guys were state police officers, but they were bodyguards of the owner of one of the clubs up in the hill. Two clubs, called one Palladium and another called Mandalas. And they own a few other things. But this kid, basically his dad owned everything, but he also owned clubs because his dad basically bought it for him. But that said, this family is known for being involved, allegedly, with organized crime and all these kind of things. And they're very involved in politics. And the bodyguards that they have with them, they're state police officers actually receiving a salary from the government. But I'm assuming they also get paid by them because they spend most of their time doing private security for them. Which it shouldn't be the case, but it is. So I spotted who they were. I already know who they were. This kid's name, I'm not going to mention it. You guys can look it up. But this kid's name, he was friends with a really good friend of mine that has now passed away, R.I.P. He was in Australia, nothing to do with Mexico. He died in Australia not long ago at age 35, like a few years ago. And he was like really my best friend of all friends. Him and a few other friends. I have like 3 good friends. But anyways, he passed away. And he was really good friends also with this guy. So I already knew the owner of Palladium and Mandala. He knew who I was too. It's just that the bodyguards at the time didn't, him also, they didn't recognize me. They really thought I was a cop coming from the hotel. Also because, I'm wearing the Baby O uniform, the Baby O badge here and security. And I'm also wearing a baton, a retractable baton and handcuffs. And, also a mag light. So from far away, I just looked like a cop. So they assumed I was a fed and they were trying to get me to help them. And I was like, I'm not a fed, bro. I was like, I'm Baker, I'm Arturo, I'm VIP security at Baby O. I'm late for work, man. I gotta get going. I wasn't late, but I just told them I gotta get going, because I wasn't about to help them anyways. Because, I didn't really kick it with them or hang out with that guy or really even agree with a lot of the stuff that went on in that club. You guys can look into the terrible things that have happened there, like they've literally pretty much, people have lost their lives in that club at the hands of the security and the taxi cabs and the staff, allegedly. So you guys could look it up, but too many stories to get into. So, I seen them doing their thing. The kids that they had pulled over looked terrified, and, I just didn't want to deal with all that negativity. I had to get to work anyway. So I crossed the street, I keep going. It was supposed to be a quiet night, but that was almost like a sign to me. It was like, maybe it's not going to be one of those quiet nights tonight. So basically, I go to the club, and it was a really quiet night, not all the bouncers were working, but that said, I was working like every day, also because I live close by. Whenever they were open, I had work. And also because I worked inside. I was just me and one more guy were the inside guards, and an extra guy only on really busy nights, and it would be 3 of us. But for the most part, I was like always the inside guy at the time, even then, like that day, I was the only one inside. The head of security came up and told me, it's not busy, it's not going to be busy, you can just go home, call it a night. It was like 12:30, 1 in the morning. Keep in mind, we had to get there at like 9-ish, 9:30, between 9:30 and 10 the latest, and we could get there at 9 if you wanted to eat, because they gave you free food there. You can actually eat there. So if you got there at 9, you were in time to eat, but past 10, you were late. But basically, nobody really gets there until 11, 12-ish, 12:30-ish. So by the time 12:30-ish, 1-ish hit, and there was nobody there, someone told me I could go home. And there was not many nights that they told me that I could actually leave, even though there was not much going on. So that night I left, and as I'm getting out of the club, I walk about half a block, because I still had to buy some things at this local store called Oxxo, like a 7-Eleven type of store. So, I was on my way in there, and then I seen one of the waiters from Bingo, and my dad used to play a lot in Bingo, so I used to sit with him there a lot, and I used to eat, and I would also play with him sometimes, and then I'd leave, It was never really my thing to gamble. My mom likes to gamble, my dad liked to gamble, but it's a different story. But the waiter that used to serve my dad all the time, he was there outside, you know, having a beer by himself. He just got out of work. And he's drinking Heinekens, actually. Not Coronas, he's drinking Heinekens. So, you know, he seen me, recognized me. He's like, hey, whoa, what's up? Because you working a baby? And I'm like, yeah, man. And then, because he knew that I was at Alebrije. Before that, I was a head of security at Alebrije, which is a club that is only another block down from this club. So he's like, what's up, dude? And I'm like, nothing, man. You want a beer? I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, just have a beer with me, man. I'm sitting here all alone. He was like standing there in front of the 7-Eleven, but not by the door. There's like an area where you can sit, and then a little bit past that you have to go down one level to get to the curve. So basically, we were at the edge by the curve, like, so we still had about maybe, I don't know how many feet. You know, maybe 8 feet, 10 feet from the actual door. And we're just standing there. So I took a beer from him, you know. I'm like, all right. I take the beer. So I'm standing there like that, having my beer. And then this guy walks up.
When you see the look on our face, you can tell right away.
You want to see that look?
Okay, boys.